Hi, I'm Alan Sagano. I'm the president of ADS Consulting Group, and thank you for listening to this brief presentation on Managed Security Services, also known as MSSP, Managed Security Services Provider. So, what are managed security services? Well, basically, we'll go over some of the benefits of managed security services, what a SIEM is, a security information and event monitor. We use Alien Vault for our SIM solution, and I'll talk a little bit about alarm monitoring, how we handle alarms, vulnerability scanning, and it's priced by monitored device. So some of the benefits are in 2016, and this is pretty scary. The average compromise took about 200 days to discover. In our opinion, that is just way too long, way too unacceptable. That is basically two-thirds of a year almost. Uh, it, Companies have gotten better at discovering compromises. That being said, there's definitely some room for improvement here. The other thing we've noticed is that the hacking activity has significantly increased over the last 5 to 10 years. The reason why that is that there's a lot of off-the-shelf tools that are available. So if you have literally half a brain, you can download these tools and just run them. Before that, you had to have pretty good programming skills to be able to break into stuff. Now, if you can read and click, you can become a hacker. So the hacks also that we're seeing are becoming more sophisticated and damaging. Crypto is a perfect example of that, right? Well, they'll encrypt your data and then hold your data for ransom. Uh, One of the things that we recommend doing, highly recommend, in fact, this is part of the MSS piece that we provide, is to, to use a SIEM, a security event, information and event monitoring package, which gives you better visibility into actually what's going on in your network, which should significantly reduce this time here, 200 days to recover. We also include in our monthly service regular vulnerability scans. We will scan everything monthly and address any vulnerabilities, which makes it, again, significantly more difficult to compromise systems on your network. A SIM will basically normalize your syslog feeds, and if you've seen any raw syslog feeds from all your devices, firewalls, servers, um, switches, WAPs, whatever you have that's running on your network, it literally looks like somebody threw up on your computer. It's just looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, like blah, blah. And it's a lot of background noise. And it's just a tremendous amount of data. So what a SIM does is it basically normalizes those events so that you're comparing apples to apples. It does eliminate background noise. It also does correlation. So you'll say, hey, I noticed that somebody tried to remote into your SSL VPN with an invalid login attempt, 25 times in the last 5 minutes, something you should probably be aware of. And then, hey, I noticed that after they got into your SSL VPN, they were able to remote into this server and do some bad things. So those are the types of things that will trigger things that you really do care about and you should look at immediately. The other thing it does is it reduces false alarms. And if you've had to deal with any type of monitoring of syslogs in the past, after the 5 millionth time somebody cries wolf, what do you tend to do? You tend to ignore it. So the SIM, if you once you've optimized it for the environment, it does a pretty good job of alerting you for things that you really need to look at immediately. That being said, it won't cry wolf all the time, so that when something does pop up, you need to jump on it immediately. So as I mentioned before, we use Alien Vault for our SIM solution. It does include syslog forwarding and monitoring and making sure that the logs haven't been tampered with by applying a hash to them. It also includes network intrusion detection. So it monitors network traffic. It's also known as NIDS um, for any suspicious activity floating around on your network. It also does host intrusion detection, or HIDS. Uh, that involves installing an Alien Vault agent on all of your Windows and Linux servers to make sure that there's no suspicious activity and malicious activity going on. The other thing that it does is it includes Open Threat Exchange, and what this is it's uh, uh, a consolidation of anything that's going on across the internet, any new vulnerabilities, any new hacks that are out there, and then those are instantly downloaded for patterns that. So then Alien Vaults looks for those types of things. If you're familiar with the Palo Alto wildfire, it's something similar to that, a little bit different focus, but very similar to that, where it's constantly monitoring the internet for new threats and then making sure that Alien Vault can detect those. The other huge thing that it does is correlation. So as I mentioned before, invalid login attempt to a single server by itself may not be a very scary event, but the one I described where somebody's trying to get into your SSL with invalid login attempts and they manage to get in and then remote into a server, those two events correlated is something you need to look at immediately, and that's what Alien Vault does a very good job of doing. So basically, what this involves, if you sign up for our MSSP services, it involves an Alien Vault all-in-one virtual, either a virtual appliance or it can be a physical appliance if you don't have an ESX host on premise. But it can be deployed either as a virtual appliance or a physical appliance. This is something we also recommend is that the network should be siloed. And what I mean by that is all of your logical network traffic should be broken up into different subnets, and then inter-silo traffic should be controlled with a firewall. Basically, the way we usually do this is we properly silo a network. So, for example, siloing your wireless, your web traffic, your servers, your workstations, and anything else that you may be running into different silos. And then we install the appliance and then throw in a separate logical, if it's a virtual appliance, a virtual network card to monitor the traffic that's going through each one of those silos. And we feel that that is a silos. So network infrastructure with siloing combined with a SIM is a very, very powerful combination. We also recommend actually before you do the sign up as an MSSP, is we actually recommend that you do a network security review so that we can address any issues that need to be addressed even before you drop in the SIM. Because if you're not properly architected for this, we can drop in the SIM and it's going to throw so many errors that they'll just be ridiculous. So what we like, our approach is, look, let's clean up this stuff as best we can. Let's get rid of all the really scary vulnerabilities and then drop in the SIM to pick up anything that we didn't pick up in our initial run through of your network security assessment. It can also be used for PCI compliance and other regulatory requirements if you have logging or monitoring requirements. So the way that we work with alarms is your on-premise all-in-one will collect all of the traffic that's going on in your local company, and then it will forward alarms to our federated server so we can immediately review any security events. Anytime an alarm is triggered, our servers are configured to send us an email alert notification immediately so we can go in and see if the alarm is something that we'll review it, make sure that if it is legitimate, we'll take countermeasures to address it. It could be a false alarm, could be something, but bottom line here is that if we receive an alarm from your all-in-one appliance, we look at it immediately. And by immediately, I mean certainly within a few minutes. And we also take responsibility for the proper configuration, maintenance, and monitoring of your on-premise all-in-one appliance. So we'll handle the config on it. We'll handle properly updating it. Alien Vault comes out with updates probably a couple of times a month. So we'll make sure it's properly maintained and properly configured. And we're also always constantly tuning it. And it's just kind of the nature of the beast. So we're always making tweaks here and there to or correlation events or things as we drop it into your environment. And that's something that's just an ongoing process. It has to be done continually and properly maintained. The bigger thing too is that we remove the worry of alarm monitoring, so you don't have to worry about it, and we'll notify you, of course, immediately if there's any significant security events. We also include in our monthly service vulnerability scanning. So roughly about 90% of computers that are compromised because they weren't properly patched. We also heard of the term poor computer hygiene, which basically means that servers weren't properly patched. So one of the scary things about vulnerability scans that we found is that let's assume for a second that you're a good citizen and you're keeping up to date with Windows updates and application updates even. A lot of times a vulnerability scan from the Alien Vault will pick up patches that are necessary that don't even show up on the radar, which is weird. And we've seen this happen multiple times. Don't even show up as part of the patching list, your monthly patching list. It's like, wow, really? So they're going to most likely, when we run a vulnerability scan, there will be additional patches that should be installed in addition to even if you're keeping absolutely up to date with your Windows patches. And that's a critical thing because, um, again, 90% of computers are compromised because they weren't properly patched. So our monthly service includes the vulnerability scanning. However, it does not include the monthly actually applying or remediating or applying the patches. That's a separate package that we offer as part of our MSSP package, and we use LabTech to handle our patching. So if you want us to do it, we can do it as either as time and materials, or you can sign up for our monthly service to do LabTech monitoring, and then it's included. So the way this is priced is per monitor device. We charge a certain amount per month per device, and it also includes the SIEM virtual monitor appliance, virtual appliance. If the physical appliance is available, but it's a separate cost. The virtual appliance, assuming you would have an ES6 server, there's no cost for that. And it includes syslog collection, host intrusion detection, network intrusion detection, the open threat exchange, correlation and alarm monitoring, as well as monthly vulnerability scanning. So to learn more about how your company can benefit from this MSSP service, please give us a call. Again, you can contact me, Alan Sagano. My phone number is 310-541-8584, and you can reach me at extension 100, or you can send me an email, Alan Sagano, asugano at adscon.com. Thanks a lot for listening, and we hope to hear from you soon. We are offering the service just because we feel that the hacks are getting more sophisticated and scary, and this is a way that we're able to protect our clients from new and ongoing threats. Thanks a lot, and we hope to hear from you soon.